Welcome to today's SeafoodNews.com video, sponsored by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute.
Good morning. It's Thursday, May 30th. Our big news yesterday and today has been the announcement of countervailing shrimp duties by the U.S. Department of Commerce against 7 countries. I'd like to give you a quick overview. First, total impact. This is not going to have a major impact on American consumers. If you look at the $3.45 billion worth of shrimp exported by the 7 countries, the total preliminary duties announced by the Department of Commerce yesterday would amount to about 2.4%, and this is likely to be revised downward. We think that if Thailand gets a de minimis duty, which is likely, the total would be about 1.9%. This is not enough to move markets. Secondly, there are a number of wrinkles about individual countries that are worth pointing out. First of all, Malaysia. Malaysia got tagged with a very high duty, 63%. This is an artifact. Basically, the company in Malaysia that was one of the respondents refused to answer the Department of Commerce questions, and so they made absolutely the worst inferences that they could. To give you one example, the Malaysia corporate income tax rate is 25%. The Department of Commerce assumed that this Malaysian shrimp company paid 0 income tax and applied 25% as a countervailing duty. They had no evidence on which to do so. In Thailand, the biggest question is why the rate for Thai Union Foods at 2.09% is higher than the rate for marine gold, which is about 1.75%, and de minimis, i.e. no duties collected. The reason is that the Department of Commerce refused to separate out Thai Union's feed mill business from its shrimp business. So all of the alleged subsidies, which in this case involves export tax rebate and investment tax credits that Thai Union received for the feed mills, were also applied to the shrimp business. This is something that is a questionable decision and might be overturned. If it is, Thai Union's rate would obviously fall below the de minimis 2%. Now let's look at India. India is kind of a unique case because the department has initially proposed a very high level of countervailing duty of over 10%, and then said the 2 respondents, Devi Fisheries and Devi Seafoods, were exempt from that and set the cash bond rate for all of India at about 5.91%, or just under 6%. The reason is that at the last minute, the petitioners alleged some new subsidies, which Commerce decided to include, and then Devi Fisheries and Devi Seafoods were able to say on May 15th that they didn't get any benefit or participate in these subsidies whatsoever. As a result, the Department of Commerce agreed to drop that calculation from their rate. So the All India rate currently is at 5.91% versus the over 10% Department of Commerce originally calculated. All of this is subject to change. Finally, this is the most important point. These are preliminary rates. The actual calculations are quite complex, and so expect that these rates are going to change again, both in terms of the final determination and again after a single year in the first period of administrative review. The tendency in cases like this is for the rates to go down as the companies learn what they need to do to avoid running afoul of U.S. law. And in some cases, it's as simple as not taking a freight subsidy. For example, in India, one of the things companies were tagged with was taking a rebate because of high freight costs. If they refuse that rebate, the subsidy goes away. Now finally, the big picture. This is going to erode the U.S. shrimp market, not because prices are going to go up, they won't, but because it makes the U.S. market a less attractive market for exporters. Just as Brazil left the U.S. market following the anti-dumping suit in 2004, Malaysia, with the exception of maybe the CP company, Asian Seafoods, is highly likely to leave the U.S. market as long as these duties are in place. What this does is it makes it easier for other countries, whether they be Japan, the EU, Spain, China, to buy shrimp from these same producers, and they make it harder for the U.S. to compete. Basically, the Gulf Seafood Council has not succeeded in their effort to essentially build a dam across the flow of commerce and try to raise the overall price of shrimp. They succeeded in building the dam maybe 20% of the way across the river, and that's not going to stop the flow at all. All in all, this is another sad day for the U.S. shrimp industry, as importers and exporters have to jump through more hoops simply in order to supply a well-liked consumer product. In Lexington, Mass., this is John Sackton.
Today's SeafoodNews.com video was brought to you by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute. Alaska has been protecting wild and sustainable seafood for generations and adheres to the most recognized and internationally accepted set of guidelines written by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. For recipes and additional information, visit wildalaskaflavor.com.